Hey, welcome to a fun Friday with Enjoying Your Blended Family today. So excited that you are here.
Yeah.
So excited that we're here and that we're all together. But you know, today is another special day.
I just love Fun Fridays, but I love this topic and this idea that we're going to be sharing today because, and Randall names them, he's totally born in the 70s.
That is true. I was born in the 70s.
Even though this movie...
It was the late 70s.
This movie didn't come out in the 70s. I don't know. There might have been an old one, an old version of this. But because of the era that we grew up in and raised our children in, these things just come to his head. And maybe it's
They
not
just like pop.
what would come to my head, but I think you guys will know exactly what this episode's going to be about when he tells you today's title.
Night at the Museum. Night at the Museum. Now, okay, so this isn't the Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson, unfortunately, but maybe it could be. Maybe, who knows, what you can find at museums. But we're really excited about this one because this is one that, you know, we love bringing new ideas, or we love talking about ideas that you can go do with your family. And it really does. It gets us thinking and just things that we can do. And this is a fun one. So
yeah, and I think it's just an incredible way to connect with your children in different ways. And there's so many out there, such a variety. So in today's episode, we're going to break that down, the different types.
Yeah, we're going to talk the different types, where you can find them, and then throwing in some pro tips that you can take.
That we may have learned the hard way.
Yeah, so y'all stay tuned. This is going to be another good one.
All right. So like we were saying, Night at the Museum. So we're going to talk about all the different types of museums. But before we get into
do they come alive like little Owen Wilson?
I was trying to sell past Night at the Museum topic and just get it out there.
Cool was little Owen. Little baby Owen was just so funny.
Yes, it was. We watched this movie, and maybe you can relate depending on how old your kids are. We watched this so many times with our children. It is funny. It's one of those movies that has adult humor. Maybe I should do a movie theme night to go along with it, and then encourage people to go hang out at the museum.
Yeah. But this has nothing to do with the movie. We just threw that extra bonus in for you.
You did. I was going to try to sell on past it, but you wanted to put the anchor down.
Come sail away. Come sail away with me.
The reason I love museums so much, I don't know if Randall loves museums.
No, I really do. That's kind of why we're doing this.
Oh,
we're talking about museums. I mean, we have gone to many museums, and you know what's cool about it is there's something for everybody. Mm-hmm. You know, there's different types of museums for whatever you like. It's out there. I think typically we think of museums as, let me go look at art, let me go look at paintings. And sure, that's a traditional museum, but it doesn't stop there. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. There is so much.
Yeah, and I think when we get in our mindset, you think museum and you think children, you're like, oh heck no. That looks like a danger zone. I am not even trying to attempt that. I try to be so careful on my choice of words.
You just can't. You can't. I'm sorry. You just go with it.
Yeah. So there are so many things out there, and we are huge. You're just smiling at me, waiting for me to say that next thing.
It's like my life is a song. I'm sorry.
We're huge on finding common interest with your kids because each of your kids are unique. And as a family, y'all may have things you all love. And then as your children individually, they all have things that they just, I don't know, it's something inside of them that they're just drawn to, or gifts and talents that they have. And so when you start to dig into that and you do some of the work that we talk about, like an Enjoy the Journey, if you've seen that and you've started working through that process and making that list of, okay, what are things that I love? What are things that my spouse loves? What are things that my kids love doing? Or as a family, the museum is one of those ideas that you can take. And I mean, it's really unlimited.
Yeah.
There's so many possibilities, and you can make it as an individual date with that child on something y'all have in common, or you could do it as a family, or you can do it as a couple, but there's just so many possibilities.
And what's great is with your kids, it's a good way to expose them to things that they're interested in. Mm-hmm. So like we said, interest. There's so many out there. I mean, sports, if they're into sports, there's sports museums, and we're going to kind of talk about some of the museums that are out there, but it really is whatever interest you have. I remember Devin really had.
You remember him, our son?
I remember Devin, our son.
You should remember him since you've been helping him move the last few days.
But yeah, and his interest was really in like building things and kind of just that whole engineering type. And you took him to a museum to try to expose more of that to him. Just remembering, certain things like that. And
really, all of our kids were so artistic, too. Taking them and exposing them to just these different types of art. It really is just pulling out those gifts that they have. But yes, the museum that I was taking Devin to, it was so cool. And I'll talk more on that when we talk about the Children's Museum. But they have created these museums where they're not just for adults. There are some that you would want to, maybe not take your little children to, but there's so many out there that are built that are kid friendly, and that can just you see their eyes light up and their mouth drop, and some of them are so hands-on as well.
But there's a lot of museums to where, like you're saying, there is hands-on stuff out there to where it's not just let me go look, but you can participate. So you can get involved in doing things, and it really is, it's unlimited. So why don't we get into a few that just kind of some of the few genres that are out there that we could share, and then we'll talk about kind of where can you find these, and then some of the pro tips.
Yeah. So, and we took all of the different types of museums in our head and narrowed it down, and they're fit into these 4 type categories, but really some of them even cross over and could go into multiple categories, but just for making it simpler for us to talk on and for you to keep it going, we put them into 4 categories.
Yep.
So the first one is art. And that's probably what a lot of y'all think when you think of museum, maybe some sort of art gallery. You're going and looking at old paintings that are hanging on the walls from the 1800s or however long ago, or maybe some artifact type stuff. And that is basically what you see in an art museum.
Going to the Louvre.
The what?
The Louvre.
What's a Louvre?
That's the big art museum in, what is it, London or the
Paris,
Louvre?
maybe?
Yeah, somewhere over there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's got all the really old, ancient type things there. So yeah, that would be a really cool one to go to. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, I definitely want to go check out some of those ancient ones.
But they have them here, they have them all over the place, and it really is. When you think art museum, it goes so much more than just those old paintings. But they have new paintings, they have new artists, they have new things out there and art, and it's not just paintings. We went to one a couple months ago, and they had pictures. This guy, that's what he does, is he captures just. He took the city of what was the city? It was in New York. It was not Queens. It was
Bronx,
maybe the Bronx. But he took just pictures of people just doing life, or maybe a kid that was on the street, and he just captured this picture of them and those moments.
In the 70s type.
Yeah,
feel.
well, he did that, and then he also did current ones. So it was kind of like you would see back then, and now you would see now. And it was just really kind of cool the way that he did that with pictures, to where you could look at these old pictures and then look at the new ones on the same streets. And it was wow, that's kind of, that's history within itself, but it's just the real life that's there capturing those moments. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just paintings, it's pictures and all different sculptures, and those are really cool to look at some of those.
Yeah, and even using different textures and sort of art materials on there. It really, even jewelry they have a lot in these art museums. So wherever your kid's interest, when you're thinking of art, okay, so maybe your kid did just get a new camera and they're really into taking pictures, taking them somewhere and they can see the different angles. I know we went into one that was same artist, but it was photographs of land, he moved on from those type pictures into landscape stuff, but just through a different type of lens than we just normally take our pictures. And it gives them these different perspectives and is teaching them along the way and just really igniting that passion. I remember our girls are so into fashion. And so we went, one Christmas was planning some year dates type thing and then saw that they had a fashion one coming. And so it was all these old clothes and this artist that created new clothes. And we went through and saw all of these fashion things. So there's all types of things when it comes to just art. It's not just your typical paintings on the wall.
Yeah. And so it really is. There is so broad and just is finding those interests, as we talked about before, is what are you interested in? What are your kids interested in? And man, they make such great date nights. And, sometimes we'll talk on this later, but you can get some really cheap deals. Some of them are free. Like we went to that one for free. We got on, we'll talk more on that, but it is so cool that these make great hangouts with your family. Maybe you're doing it as a family as a whole, but maybe you're doing it as just dates with you and one of your kids or some of your kids. But yeah, the art museums are just endless. What do you like? And then the second one is science.
It's
science.
Which could sound boring if you're not into science, and as an overall, you might think science, my kid don't want to go to that. But if you look into what are the science museums? If your kid's interested in the stars, there are planetarium type museums that you can go and lay back in the dark and watch this whole star.
Those are so cool.
Yeah, they have one around in our town, around Christmas time, and it tells the story basically of Jesus being born, but it's using the stars to tell how the wise men follow the stars and all of that, and it's showing the different stars and telling the story during that process. So it's really neat.
Yeah.
And then there's things like the butterfly museum.
I remember with Riley, whenever she was really little, that was one of the field trips that her school went on. So I volunteered, and just that was so cool. That was so fun, and it's just things you don't think about. I would never have thought about going to a butterfly museum. And you're
like, how many butterflies can you really look at?
But it's not just you walk in and there's butterflies all over. That's just a part of it. But they have so many different other things included into that museum that was really cool. They even had a little theater. You would go in and look and watch this little show and everything, and then you'd go out and explore. And it's just so fun at all the different areas that they have.
And I think they have real life butterflies.
They do, yeah. No, you actually can. So that's what I was saying. That's just part of it, but they really create this whole just atmosphere, environment that you get to walk through. And it really is. It's so cool. And your kids are just normally so wide-eyed and go, man, this is amazing. And it leaves you talking about it years and years later, right? So that's the cool thing, is you're creating these memories with your family. You're creating these memories with your kids.
Yeah, I remember one of the first outings we did as a family. Maybe not the first, but early on. And that was when we took the kids to the Space Center.
Yeah.
And so it's another science museum. We live near NASA, which is, huge space center. Well, they made an area where the children can come and learn, and it has just these different things to explore, these different rocket type things that you can climb in. And I remember you lay back on your back and put your feet up as if you were going to fix it, do takeoff, and then different things that show the images and the weight and all of that.
They really do. And it's so much just kind of history there, but it's so much engagement. And even with that museum also had fun things to do that your kids, this big old climbing gym type thing, that if you're just ready to take a break and sit down, your kids can go play for a little bit as well. So there really are. There's so many cool things out there, and each museum is unique. Each museum has their own little features to it. And it's just, it really is. It's like a whole new world. I've got Ariel. Oh, new world. No, that's not Ariel. Who's that? That's one of the Disney people. But yeah,
Jasmine.
Is that jazz?
Maybe,
Who knows?
But there is, like, we even have one that has the body, and you can walk through like a nose. It's like a life-size
You become
body
a
parts,
booger.
and you're in the nose being a booger. It's interesting. It reminds me of, like, I think it's Magic School Bus or something, where they start out in the classroom and then they go to explore whatever the topic is, and then it takes you through like the human body. And so the museum is like built off of that kind of concept. So all of those are under like the science, or even like dinosaurs. If your kids are really interested in dinosaurs, we love going and looking at these life-size models that they have put together of dinosaurs. There's so many different things of whatever their interest is.
There really is. And some of these, like we said, they cross. So you might have a dinosaur exhibit in, another art museum or, whatever they do. But the thing is you can go to these museums and just stick in one exhibit or, catch them all, whatever, but, it takes time for sure because there's always so much. I think I've never been to a museum and got to see everything.
Yeah.
I think you always walk away going, man, I could have spent like a couple more hours or a day or two here. But yeah, it really is. So we got the art museum, we got the science museum, and then the third is history.
Yes.
History.
And the history ones are cool because a lot of times they are to that area. Like you were saying, if you went to Paris or Italy, Rome, like something, they're going to have these things that are just the natural structures and has the art inside of there. But even in your areas, there's history that's so rich in that area that they create. Like I know that we lived near Galveston, San Jacinto area, and they have like this submarine that you can go into underground. You went to that, right?
Yeah. You keep saying underground, but it wasn't underground.
It's not? Okay, I haven't gone. In my head, it's underground.
That's one of the memories, and this is the power in this. I still remember as a kid going to this place, and it still sticks with me today as just a amazing, fun time. And that's what we're leaving with our kids, right? This is what we're wanting to do with our kids, is create these moments, especially in a blended family where we're trying to build bonds together. Whenever you do things like this, it sticks and it creates those bonds and those memories. That's why it's so powerful. But I remember as a kid, this museum was the coolest because they had a battleship and then they had a submarine right next to it.
That was not underground, apparently.
They were not underground, but they were side by side, and it's just so cool that you got to walk in the battleship. Like you got to walk on deck, you got to go down in it and see all the nooks and crannies. And same with the sub. As a kid, being able to go into a submarine, and these weren't big, these weren't huge, ones, but I mean, it was so cool because we climbed to the top and then you do the little ladder down into the submarine and you get to walk through a submarine. I mean, these were ones that were actually used.
It would have been cooler if it was underground, but
or in the water, underwater, maybe not in the ground. But that's okay.
I guess when I'm saying underground, obviously it's a submarine. It would be in the water.
A submarine in the ground, like going through the ground.
What is
Maybe
that
it's
brown
got like
stuff? A bunch of dirt. No, I obviously meant in the ocean.
But it's just one of those that, as a kid, I fell in love with it. I was like, this is so amazing.
Hang on. We'll be right back. Check this out.
It's time to have some more blended family fun. Yeah. Are you ready?
What was that?
It's my new song. You like it?
Sure, I guess.
Well, it goes along with Enjoy the Journey, our new blended family roadmap to having fun together.
Oh, okay. I get it now. I feel the excitement, but why don't you tell them about it instead of singing it?
Fine, I guess. Let me try. This is a fun journey for your family, a new experience. You could go to the movies again, or you could get this for your family and come out with a new plan that creates more fun opportunities in your family. You'll laugh more, have more fun together, and create lasting memories that keeps your family stronger and healthier. And it's also about having more fun. How was that?
That was pretty good. I know that got them way more excited about the new journey they can go on as a family than your song did.
What? Come on.
You could have also told them that it not only creates more fun their whole family loves doing, but it also adds more fun for their marriage and new fun ways to connect with their kids individually. It's also great for that step-parent relationship. You could have said that too.
I don't think you really appreciated my song.
Aye. Anyways, Enjoy the Journey is ready for your family to start today. The link for more information is in the show notes. Have more family fun and create more lasting memories.
Have more family fun with your blended family and enjoy the journey today. Yeah.
Really? Let's get back to this episode.
Amazing. But they really do. They've got all kinds of history museums. If you're into whatever, I went to, I was in Georgia, at Atlanta one time, and they had this MLK museum that was phenomenal.
He came back. This was just a couple years ago. He came back talking about this.
Oh, I took pictures, and the cool thing is they still have the church that he would preach in. They still have that available for you to come in, and it's kind of like a museum now. You come in and you sit there, and the coolest thing is whenever we did, they have on speakers him preaching. And you just it was amazing. Once you walk in, it's this little small church downtown, and you walk into it, and there are people sitting sporadically, but everyone was so quiet. I mean, you could hear a penny drop in there because everybody was just so
Is that the saying?
Huh?
I thought it's a pin drop.
Well, whatever, a penny or a pin or a penny drop.
Okay.
Yeah. But you could. I mean, it was that quiet in there.
Yeah, I remember you coming back and it being like a very surreal
moment.
It
was. You just sit there and you're listening to him and you're like, golly, this is amazing. And then right across the street is a museum that has just so many types of history moments with him and kind of everything that you're just going through. I mean, it was just so cool. So, I mean, there are things like that. There's the Civil War museums.
Yeah, I know. Last year when I was tutoring, this kid was so into Titanic, and he was a third grader, just so into it. And so his family was taking him on this road trip to go through the Titanic museum that I think is in where's Nashville, Tennessee kind of area that he was going to check this out. I think that's where they had said it was. And to be able to walk through it and experience it. And so then when he came back and was telling me about it, he was just so excited and so impressed with what he saw. And it just made that love that he had for the Titanic. I've never heard of a child so obsessed with something like this, but it made it that much greater because he got to experience it hands-on.
Yeah. And it's one of those that it's endless. What are you into? What are your kids into? And this also kind of helps expose what they like and what they don't like. Taking them to things like this, they can, they don't always know what they like, especially age depending, right? If they're younger kids, this is great ways to expose them to new things. And if they're older, they kind of develop more interest, more like, so now you can get a little more specific. So, and there's a museum for any of that. So that's the third one. So we got art, science, history. The last one is children's.
And this is my absolute favorite museum. I am sad right now because I currently don't have any little children. And there is a rule where you can't just go as an adult into this children's museum.
That's so sad.
You have to have a child with you.
I'm a child at heart, y'all.
I'm like, come on. My son, actually, because it became such an important thing for us I took him to a lot when he was younger. This is the one that Randall was talking about. It created such memories. He tried to take his girlfriend when they started dating on a date there to be turned away. Turned down because you have to have a kid with you, which makes sense. But this thing, and I started taking my pre-K students on field trips there as well because it's just so full of life and color, and they have it all broken up into these creative things that you can go in and create these different projects that are hands-on, like you were talking about building. There's a place where you can go outside and there's a whole water stream system where you're putting pipes together and changing the way the water runs down and then putting your boat and watching it float down this system. I mean, it's just, I could go on and talk about this amazing children's museum, and this is just the one like that's nearest to us. I know they have them all over the place, so checking that out from even your youngest, like your toddlers, would enjoy this. They even have a whole section. I had a friend came that was desperate to go to the children's museum, and she had a child, so I said, let's go to the children's museum. And I took her, and her kid was like not even walking yet, but they had a whole section for babies, and you put on like these nurse shoes because you had to like, you couldn't walk where the babies were going to be crawling and stuff, and you just went and we sat and we chatted while her baby was just like crawling all around, and like with the mirrors and these little like tinker things for the and to climb on. It's just
it's endless.
I can't wait for baby Violet to be here, and she might only be a month old, but we're gonna go to the children's museum.
Going to have a lot of fun. So there really are. So those are kind of the 4 main categories, and there's so much. There's so much that you can do, and they do cross over as well to where different exhibits they might kind of incorporate a few of those into one. So let's talk real quick on where can you find these museums.
Yeah, so really, I mean, I believe that it would be 100% true statement if I said you have one in your town. Now, maybe if you have like population of 300, maybe not. But most towns have something. Like, we're not a huge town, and I think we probably have at least 3 in our area within like a 10-minute driving distance, and a lot of those are free. Like, you can go. We as a family in the summer, we love going and doing these type activities, and we go even though we've seen it 100 times every summer, maybe multiple times, and we go check them out because they do change out some of those exhibits. Or the kids are a little older, they're maturing a little more, they're understanding, or maybe we take a cousin along with us, or they bring a friend with them. But they have these in your town that are usually free to you, and they have different pieces of it that they change out and that your kids can like get some hands on. But then there's also like, you live somewhere near a big city. You have, like, for us, it's Houston, wherever you're at within like an hour. Maybe.
Well, and I was going to say, even like if your town is super small that you don't really have anything, even looking for a local city that is close by, without even going to the big city yet. I mean, you might be like a 15, 20-minute drive to another local city that has something, so there are, close by
that was
local
my third
as well.
point, but thank you for going into that. But.
Now, big city, go ahead with that one.
I mean, maybe I should have put them in a better order. I don't know. So driving to a nearby town, though, like my youngest, she's 19, and she moved to a town that's about an hour away from us. And I drive through this town. I don't even think it's considered a city. I think it's more of a town. We drive through it all the time, but we never stop in it. And now she lives there. And so I just started looking around, and they have a railroad museum. They made the whatever was in their area popular, and they have a big railroad that goes through their town. So now they have railroad carts did I say that right?
Railroad carts.
Railroad carts that you can walk through. They have these train tracks, this little small town that's like replicated on these tracks to watch. So if your kids are into trains, it's an incredible place. And it's an hour away from us, or it could be 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I bet they have some things too. And if you just took your spot on the map and drew a circle and then just started pinpointing some of these different things and then look into them and see, you don't have to go to all of them, but what's the ones that sparks the interest of your kids that they like, and then go visit those things first. And it's either free, like I said, or such a small amount to go out and have some fun that day.
Yeah, it's really worth it. So yeah, you're finding some local cities, and then the last one, of course, is your bigger cities. We all should live somewhere close to a big city, or maybe a couple big cities. So, and big cities have everything. So really just finding those, right? So museums are all around. They're everywhere.
And
you just have to look.
Now they're doing pop-up museums. So like the Van Gogh thing they're doing, and it's just like they come in this area and it's a pop-up museum, and you get to go around and explore and look at the art, and then they move on to another city. So you just be looking, like on Facebook, they usually advertise that, or on your city, whatever's going on, they advertise those.
So they're there. So we're wrapping up with some pro tips real quick. We're going to run through a couple pro tips to help you out.
And you kind of touched on some here and there, but we will just make sure that you hear these so you don't have to learn them the hard way. For one, there is usually a free night, like one night out of the month or out of the week, it just depends on how your city does it, that is absolutely free to you. So take advantage of that.
Those are good family tips right there. Do a Google search on the places before you go. And look at that, and then you can kind of plan around that.
And sometimes it may be a little more crowded on that night, but when we went to the free night the other night, I mean,
we went to the big city. We went to Houston to one of their big museums that was, I mean, it just took up like blocks, and it was free. We got in for free, and we could have went and spent all day there, but that was really cool.
And that is the next pro tip: is give yourself enough time. Yeah. We thought a couple hours would be enough, and we could have probably spent 4 hours, 5 hours
Easy.
All day. We could have stopped, got some food, brought a picnic, and went and sat. A lot of these places have parks nearby, so you can go sit outside and have a picnic and come back in and enjoy some more time together. So just know this is something that you could make an entire day event, especially if you are driving to a bigger city or driving to a different town, putting that into consideration. Then also take into consideration parking, because a lot of these, if you're going into a bigger city, you may have to pay some sort of parking fee. So if you're not prepared for that, just know you either need to have cash or just extra money to be able to do that parking. You might want to look into that before you go, so you're not driving around the big city confused and lost trying to figure out how to get into the building.
Those are a little bit harder. Now, a lot of those museums will have their own parking garage places, but just know that that does cost most of the time.
Last thing is know the etiquette for the area, so like maybe what the dress code is. I know when Riley and I went to our first art museum, we were a little embarrassed because we were going into where they had sculptures and structures all around as the art. They made this huge Peter Pan type thing out of recyclable type items, and it was so cool. But we were walking past, I walked a little too close and I knocked part of it was like a broomstick in a trash can.
She's in the paper, most wanted.
But then we had someone following us around the rest of the time to make sure we behaved ourselves. And then also, sometimes the art will have a piece of tape on the ground where you're not supposed to go past that tape, and we didn't know. And so people were having to come and tell us, back up, back up. So you don't want to be embarrassed like that. So know the etiquette.
Yeah. Every place is going to be a little unique. So it really is fun. We can't stress that enough. We've had a lot of good times. A lot of good connections with our kids, being able to do things like this. And as we said, some of this is free. It's free and it's local, so use it. As so many times in our own cities, we don't get out and explore all the things that are there. We miss that. So start there. Start small and then venture out. But go check out a museum.
And it don't have to be at night. It could be during the day.
It could be a day at the museum. Or a morning at the museum. Dang, we're going to have to maybe do a bunch of these and just call them the day, the night, the morning at the museum. So listen, guys, we love you. Go check out your museums with your kids and create those fun, special moments. Love you guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye. Thanks for joining us today. We hope this episode has been a blessing and encouraged your family journey.
Make sure you stay connected with us and join our weekly Blended Family newsletter. We send an email out every Friday morning full of support and encouragement.
When you join, we also want to give you a free gift, so go get yours today. The link is in the show notes below.
Have an amazing day, and remember to enjoy the journey with your blended family, and we'll see you on the next episode.